This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell, and this hour, you can tell by the music, the bad boy himself is with us. Dr. William-Schneid is our special guest this hour, and he is a criminologist. He's been actively involved in the field of law enforcement for over 40 years now. His assignments have included Internal Affairs Narcotics Task Force, as well as patrol and investigative duties. He's taught at the Rio Hondo Regional Police Academy on officer survival and ethics, because it's funny, we're going to be talking about ethics in this hour. He's consulted with and been assigned to various federal law enforcement agencies and task forces during his past 40 years. And he's been routinely appointed by Los Angeles County Superior and Municipal Court judges as an expert in alternative sentencing and narcotics. Bill is regarded as a professional seeker of truth, and he holds no bias to either the defense nor the prosecution. He's been called upon by both sides for his services and his expertise. He is the recipient of the Law Enforcement Medal of Honor and the Medal for Valor. And he is certified by the State of California Peace Officer Standards and Training Bureau through supervisory level. He received his Ph.D. in 1994 with dual majors of criminology and psychology, graduating summa cum laude in his bachelor, master's, and Ph.D. year. He's testified in court as an expert in narcotics, the penal system, and alternative sentencings. And listen to this, is credited with over 3,500 arrests during his law enforcement career. Right now, he's the Director of Special Operations for Apex Strategic Investigations Group, a licensed international private investigation firm in Los Angeles and Riverside counties. The website is www.worldfind.biz. But before we get any further, and because, I want to make sure everybody's happy before we go to a prune juice commercial, some of the organizations and past affiliations and commendations that Bill has, they're members of the World Association of Detectives, California Robbery Association, California Narcotic Officers Association, Southern California Fraud Investigators Association, and a list of maybe 15, 20 other associations. But when it comes to the commendations, Law Enforcement Medal of Honor, Law Enforcement Medal for Valor, Federal Bureau of Investigation for exceptional service, Department of Air Force for exceptional service, Department of Defense Missile Defense Organization for exceptional service, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms for exceptional service, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department for exceptional service. And we're very happy to have Bill with us today. And Bill, welcome back to the X-Zone, my friend. How are you?
Fine. Thanks so much, Rob. Happy to be here.
Bill, you are an expert when it comes to officer survival and ethics, and we've talked about ethics before, but over the past couple of weeks, Bill, the U.S. Secret Service has been put in the spotlight with what happened with Secret Service and defense personnel when it came to prostitutes in Colombia.
Well, it's been tragic. Certainly, when you're talking about an agency that was created, what I believe in 1865, and have served impeccably for the greater part of that time, to be besmirched with a dozen or so agents conducting themselves in a less than honorable manner is an unfortunate smear against all those that do serve.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that, and apparently there is just something that has come out of the news today where the headline is U.S. Secret Service embroiled in fresh prostitution claims that go back to 2011 in March, a full year before the most recent incident in Colombia. And this is supposed to have happened... we'll talk about this when we get back from this commercial break. Exonation, the one and only Dr. William-Schneid is our special guest to this hour. And as I have said before, he is now the Director of Special Operations for Apex Strategic Investigations Group. And they are in California, but they work right around the world. So if you need the services of a professional and yet very, very affordable professional service, investigators for commercial, institutional, civil, or criminal, just go to www.worldfind.biz. That's www.worldfind.biz. We're talking about the U.S. Secret Service this hour. We're also going to touch lightly on
cuisine at Marsh
something we
Landing
were talking
Restaurant
about
in
earlier
Fellsmere.
tonight.
Enjoy
Is it
delicacies
possible
such as
that if
frog
President
legs,
Bush,
gator tail, catfish, and
former
swamp
Vice
cabbage,
President,
or enjoy the more
Cheney,
traditional cuisine
and
like
former Defense
hand-cut Angus
Secretary
steaks,
of Defense,
ribs, and seafood.
Donald Rumsfeld,
Join
went
us
out
for
of the United
breakfast with
States
a
that they could
Southern flair
actually be
featuring
charged
sweet
and
potato
arrested for
pancakes,
war
biscuits,
crimes.
and gravy, and
My
much
guest tonight,
more.
this hour,
Planning a
Dr.
party?
William-Schneid.
Marsh
We'll be
Landing's
back
private
on the
dining
other
room
side
can
of this break.
accommodate
Don't
groups
go away.
from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best.
Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, or psychic phenomenon? Join me, Tim Bartley, co-host of Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, coming mid-January 2017 to the XZBN. We will channel spirits live and talk to them, revealing all kinds of amazing information. Spiritual attachments will be found and removed on the show, and so much more. To find out when you can listen to Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, visit www.xzbn.net for listeners on both sides of the veil.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. William-Schneid is my special guest this hour. www.worldfind.biz. That's www.worldfind.biz. The headline reads, the U.S. Secret Service embroiled in fresh prostitution claims. The U.S. Secret Service investigating fresh claims that its agents had sex with prostitutes in El Salvador as it struggled to contain a seemingly ever-growing scandal. And it says in the latest allegations against President Barack Obama's elite bodyguard agents were said to have drank and paid for sexual favors in the VIP section of a strip club in March 2011, a full year before the most recent incident in Colombia. A U.S. government contractor told the agents it was a really bad idea to take women back to their hotel rooms, but they said not to worry because they did this all the time, and this is coming out of a Seattle television station report. The contractor's claims were corroborated by the strip club's owner, who said agents descended on the club 3 nights in a row in the week ahead of the visit by President Obama to the Latin American country last year. The owner said that the senior figures of the U.S. Embassy and visiting FBI agents would also frequent his business. Now, these newest claims undermine the agency's insistence that the scandal in Colombia last month, which has so far claimed the careers of 9 agents, was an isolated incident and not part of a broader culture. Well, it certainly seems that as the investigation is continuing, more and more people are coming forward. And Bill, when people talk about the U.S. Secret Service, you're talking about the elite squad that of dedicated men and women who, are there to protect the president and who would have really put themselves in front of a bullet for the guy.
Well, I think that we have the Presidential Protection Detail, which is just a very, very small number of agents as compared to, I believe, their overall manpower expenditure is something over 5,000. So, we're talking about a couple of hundred agents that are involved in actual protection duty of the president and the vice president. That being said, I mean, the additional scandalous report from 2011 doesn't surprise me a bit. When I taught ethics, you factor in the human condition, and it doesn't take much to recognize the fact that this goes on, whether it goes on with deployed military, whether in foreign countries, when we had a base of Subic Bay in the Philippines, prostitution was a huge income business to the Philippine women that were there, and that's just servicing the U.S. Navy. So prostitution is the oldest occupation in the world, and as long as there's men, there's going to be prostitutes. Now, you may say that, well, yeah, but the Secret Service rises to a higher level. Yes, but they're still men, and, they're still controlled by, whatever basic needs, they choose to malbehave in. That doesn't mean everybody does it, but it certainly gives them an opportunity to be somewhat frivolous in their behavior. My concern is a greater one, which is the compromising of secure information that may be in their hotel room having to do with presidential movement or anything like that, where you have a prostitute that is in reality, a member of Al-Qaeda or a member of another terrorist organization using that opportunity to be able to get to and perhaps drug an agent and then, search around for any documentation that may compromise the whereabouts or movement of the president.
Here's a question, Bill, and I just thought of this as you were talking. Would this instance with the U.S. Secret Service and prostitutes fuel the Al-Qaeda fire?
Say that again?
I said, would the incident with the U.S. Secret Service and prostitutes actually fuel the Al-Qaeda fire, since they don't go in for this, and this would be looked at as a failure, a weakness of the United States?
Oh, I don't think so. I think they've already looked at us as the infidels. So, I mean, this is putting this on their shopping list of things to do. Would be, low level. I can't imagine them really utilizing it. Matter of fact, up to this point, remember the investigation now is several weeks old. Al Jazeera and Al-Qaeda, nobody from the Muslim countries have made any particular public statements or outcry regarding it. They're looking for juicier stuff. They can deal with us killing, some civilian with a drone bomb and milk that, or burning the Quran and use that way better than they can some infidelity by a Secret Service agent.
Yeah,
just remember, they're talking to people that don't even know what the Secret Service is. So, their audience is very limited from that kind of intellect.
So why then? So what is the big deal then? All right, the Secret Service guys, had prostitutes. Now, if they were in certain areas of Nevada, they could legally do that, couldn't they? Or is this against the protocol of the U.S. Secret Service and the government?
Well, that's really what it is. It's a protocol issue. It's not, is it legal? Because, matter of fact, prostitution in that country is legal, and you can charge for it.
Mm-hmm.
In Nye County, Nevada, in certain counties, it's legal. But we're talking here about your behavior.
Yeah.
Law enforcement in general, and certainly the federal government agencies inclusively, have specific rules of conduct which govern your behavior 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thou shalt not hit your wife.
Yeah.
You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. Where in the private sector, if the CEO was caught in bed with someone other than their wife, it's not going to jeopardize his job. But here you have that gray area that I just spoke about of is there an opportunity to compromise secure information? And so that's the wild card in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
The morality, yes, every agency would like to control the morality of its officers, and certainly this being caught with your fly
pants
open,
down, yeah.
so to speak, has made this into a greater story than it would normally be.
Yeah,
I mean, if this was Joe Blow in some obscure police department in the United States,
mm-hmm.
it would barely make the 5th page. But the fact that it is the Secret Service, and it's and somebody was complaining about this, and then the police were involved, and suddenly it's taken on a life of its own.
Well, they remember good old Bill and Monica.
Well, I mean, that was a point that we made off air,
Yep.
was that, if you're going to start throwing morality around, think of how many governors in our states have been caught as philanderers. Mm-hmm. We know factually that President Kennedy was a philanderer. We know that Johnson was a philanderer. We know that Clinton had oral sex with an intern in the Oval Office, for goodness sakes.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more in your face can that be? And so we're all mortified because a dozen Secret Service agents in a foreign country had women in their room. I mean, again, you've got the media board.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing really going on. So this is a big focus. And, you well know, as being part of the media, how something like this can just become a conflagration.
Yep.
And become way bigger a deal than, in the essence, it really is. I mean, the president's security was not compromised. It wasn't a bunch of agents that fell asleep and the president was left unguarded. This all occurred before the president even arrived. So, what we're doing is we're taking conduct that would normally be dealt with at the administrative level, and because it became a media focus, it's now a big hoo-ha. But it's not anything worse than goes on all the time with every federal agency out there,
yeah.
and with every local police department. This is nothing new.
Is this another part of the argument that's been going on for years, Bill, that prostitution and marijuana should be legalized?
Prostitution is, forgetting morality, mm-hmm. and looking at it strictly as a health issue, and as a taxable issue. I would much rather have prostitutes that have to be licensed, as they are in Nevada, and have weekly health inspections, etc., than the risk of venereal disease being rampant because nobody has any control of these people.
So do you think that there will ever come a time that prostitution will be legalized as it is in some counties in Nevada?
Never, because as long as this country is governed by the religious right-wing coalitions, mm-hmm. And that's a whole other topic, but as long as that's where the money is, and we are, so fixated on that agenda and the hundreds of millions of dollars poured into political campaign.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network,
I mean, we've
Star
had states
Media,
in the South
Good
that won't
News
even
Radio
allow
Network,
Playboy
Angel
magazine.
Broadcast Network, Wiki
Bill, you and I have to
Broadcast
take our
Network,
commercial break
and
at the news at the bottom of the hour.
WPBN
Always great talking to you, my
TV.
friend.
For more information
Exonation,
on
Dr.
the
Bill-Schneid is
X-Zone
our special
Broadcast
guest.
Network, visit us
As
at
I've said before, he is currently the Director of Special Operations for Apex Strategic Investigations. Visit them online, www.worldfind.biz. That's www.worldfind.biz. We'll be back.
Did you know that when you're on the road with
news
limited
as we
data or
continue from our
Wi-Fi,
studios
you
in
can still
Hamilton,
listen to the
Ontario,
X-Zone
Canada.
radio show
My
with
name
Rob
is
McConnell,
Rob McConnell.
The
This
Science
is
of
the
Magic with
X-Zone.
Gwilda
Don't go
Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Exonation, Dr. William-Schneid is our special guest. www.worldfind.biz is the website. Dr. Schneid is currently the Director of Special Operations for Apex Strategic Investigations Group, and they're based in Los Angeles and Riverside counties. Once again, the website is www.worldfind.biz. Bill, let me ask you this. We were talking before we went to the break about why prostitution wouldn't become legalized in the United States. If that's the case, Bill, and if there are these organizations and these powers that have the money to put a squash on things, how come in the state of Nevada, in certain counties, it flourishes?
Well, first of all, it's flourished for many, many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
Nevada is nicknamed Sin City for a reason. It sort of was accepted. It was in the middle of initially started by organized crime. It was in the middle of nowhere, and really was, I think, perceived by most as a harmless little village that could have no effect on the general population. And then as it grew, prostitution obviously grew along with it. It was then decided that, I don't know historically how, but in any case, that it would be legal in one particular county. Now, why they picked Nye County over any other county, I have no idea, or why Nye County picked itself. I think Nye County, as I recall, basically has nothing except the infamous Mustang Ranch, and I'm sure that there's a tax-based revenue from that. The fact that it's isolated, the fact that it's legalized in that county, I just don't think people find it, offensive. And people generally in cities throughout the United States don't find prostitution offensive. What they find offensive is your classic streetwalkers that are walking in front of your business, or condoms on your front lawn. These are the things that people find offensive, but you never hear that they're offended by the acts of prostitution themselves. It's the after effect, or the fact that they're parading in front of business, keeping away legitimate customers. That's what annoys people. But I think, by and large, it's a fairly accepted, occupation, because the bottom line is anything that goes on behind closed doors between consenting adults.
Right. That's right.
And I think that's also the bottom line. So, if you took care of licensing them, if you took care of health issues, which was a requirement of licensing, you have the potential of another taxation as a business, even though it's a business of one. And then you've also taken out the criminality aspects of it being controlled by elements of organized crime, pimps, etc., abusing the women that are being exploited. So you would elevate it, if you want to choose that word, to a more legitimized profession that benefits the coffers of localized government. And pot obviously falls into a similar arena, except the morality issue isn't as significant.
Now, what do you think would happen? Speaking as a veteran law enforcement officer, if prostitution was to be legalized, would sex crimes go down?
Sex crimes, I think one of the misnomers of sex crimes is, for the most part, sex crimes have nothing to do with sex. They have everything to do with power and control. You classify rape as an example as a sex crime, but it really isn't. The rapist isn't interested in consummating sex. He's interested in the domination, in the power and the control that goes with the crime. So, that's where you have to sort of crystallize your thinking. Pedophiles, that's a different category. You've got, different categories of sex crimes. Another example would be the individual who exposes themselves and don't have, just the exhibitionist that doesn't have any physical contact with somebody, that's just interested in the shock value. These are sort of petty people that would do what they do anyway. Now, if you compare us to Europe as an example, where you have nude beaches, I mean, we've fought this out in this country for years. Mm-hmm. We don't have nude beaches, or if we do, they're in obscure, hidden places. But by and large, we don't have public nude beaches. We don't have topless commercials. All under the auspices of this will encourage sex crimes. Well, if you go to Europe and you see all these nude beaches around, sex crimes historically and statistically haven't gone up at all and haven't gone down. They're just, sort of where they would be expected to be anywhere else. You see topless commercials on TV, nobody gets all upset about it. So once again, it's if the general population isn't upset, who's upset? Well, we go back again to the zealot, fundamentalist, religious groups that believe that this is our damnation as a society, and they have the money to back it, and hence it has now become part of our societal rules. But you don't see anything like this in Europe.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And yet, look at Holland. Prostitution is legal. You've got marijuana.
Well, the red light
legal.
district,
Yeah.
They have women sitting in the front window,
Yeah.
for goodness sakes, parading themselves.
Yeah.
So, as unattractive as they may be, they're still there.
Yeah,
and the red light district is famous. I mean, tourists walk up and
Sure.
down there, don't think anything of it. I think our primitive sexual morals in this country is kept under strong thumb of the church, mm-hmm. and I'll use that as a generic term, simply because they want to control behavior on what they think is correct. It has nothing to do with sex crimes. It has nothing to do with anything other than one's interpretation of certain elements of Scripture, mm-hmm. and Scripture according to whatever denomination is reading it. So it is a very strong personal feeling. I mean, if you go back to Greek and Roman times, the seat of Western civilization, I mean, it was a whole different issue of acceptable societal morality, and their society didn't crumble and go to ashes. I mean, that society produced Socrates, Aristotle, the great minds of the world. So, certainly society can function as it's allowed to function and reach its own level. And when you used Holland as an example, you're absolutely right. It didn't go down the toilet because they legalized certain drugs.
Mm-hmm. So should we take? This is a hot question because you're looking at where does the government come in and where does the church come in and who's got the actual power?
Well, you can't separate church and state. Mm-hmm. I mean, you like to say that, but the reality is, as long as the churches are allowed to become political organizations in the sense of donating large amounts of money to political action committees and get around it, they're in effect, controlling the candidates that are going to be there. One of the fears on Matt Romney is the fact that he is a stringent Mormon, and the Mormons have a very specific agenda, and a justifiable concern by certain elements of the electorate is, will he inject his belief system if elected, into the presidency? You have the same thing, in the service. I mean, I speak to guys from 29 Palms all the time. My one great investigator over there, Eric, tells me what's going on there. I mean, for goodness sakes, they just discharged a 9-year veteran,
wow,
a sergeant from the Marine Corps, blemish-free, for posting 12 words against the president on his Facebook account. I mean, he lost all his benefits, lost everything. I mean, even as proud as I am of being in this country, I have to sit here and knock my head against the wall and say, what the hell are we doing? I mean, sometimes we behave like miscreants. And when I see something like that, frankly, it's disgusting. And so, when you prioritize your concerns, what a handful of Secret Service agents are doing in Colombia, I could care less about. I'm more concerned about our rights of freedom of speech. I'm more concerned about, lots of issues that affect lots of people than somebody's indiscretion, which is really, between him and his own sense of morality. I think it's great that certain departments want to codify everything, and you've got the heads of these departments testifying in front of Congress, mortified that this goes on. Oh, please. What, did you just wake up yesterday? I mean, what ridiculous patronization, to be able to insult Congress, or even Congress, to sound so naive as to say, did this ever happen before? Of course it did.
Well, I guess they've got to do something with their time, Bill.
Well, see, if we trivialize it, and remember, Congress is, this is an election year. Mm-hmm. This is a great time to grandstand. They've got the platform. It's easy for somebody to pick up the phone, talk to one of their political aides, and say, Secret Service did what? I want to be at a news conference. Schedule a news conference for noon today. I mean, this is manna from heaven. This is a gift, and the Secret Service, unfortunately, is the victim. But they are being, brutalized over an activity that of itself is virtually inconsequential. It may be something worthy of administrative action, but hardly the ruination of the career of half a dozen agents. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Speaking about agents and the president, we had Alfred Weber on the show earlier today, and he said the president of the President George Bush, Vice President Dick Cheney, and Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, the former, are not allowed to, or do not leave the United States because they fear arrest anywhere else in the world. Does this make sense to you?
It makes absolutely no sense at all. First of all, nobody's going to arrest the President of the United States. Secondly, the fact that this guy talks about a civilian war trial tribunal, it's, you might as well have a neighborhood watch group that get together and say, something, we think the president's wrong and he should be arrested. I mean, these are powerless people that, need to grow some hair on their head and smell the flowers and realize that, they belong in the same column as the people that believe the world's flat. This is just pure insanity. And unfortunately, they have an audience. I mean, there's always a handful of fringe element people that believe this nonsense.
Oh, by the way, Alfred Weber also believed that, or still does believe, that the U.S. government and other government agencies of the world are suppressing the fact that the extraterrestrials are here, and he even claims that he had an E.T. conversation at one time. So there you go. Bill, you and I have to take our commercial break, our final break for this hour. Exonation Dr. William-Schneid is my special guest. www.worldfind.biz. That's www.worldfind.biz. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away.
19 Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant check. Officers on the scene.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawson, host of Paranormal Stakeout. With over 36 years in law enforcement, I have learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, how we gather the evidence, preserve that evidence, and present it to a jury of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Join me, Larry Lawson, every week on Paranormal Stakeout when, along with my guests, we'll take a journey to prove with indisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Go to xzbn.net for the broadcast schedule and check me out at paranormalstakeout.com.
True healing must address 4 levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, for us to live joyful and productive lives. We tend to treat 3 of the 4, leaving the spiritual languishing. If you're tired of the same dysfunctional patterns cropping up in your life, Soul Balancing is for you. Trixie Phelps, owner and founder of Soul Balancing, is a naturally gifted energy healer trained in numerous esoteric forms, including shamanism. Trixie has created a powerful modality that safely and effectively clears your energetic field. A soul balancing session can remove interference, heal trauma, and restore your hope. Contact Trixie for a life-changing long-distance session today. www.soulbalancing.world.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Dr. Bill-Schneid is my guest this hour, www.worldfind.biz. Bill, what was your impression of what happened in Florida between that what was he, a block commander or a watch commander or a neighborhood watch guy and this 17-year-old youth?
Yeah, Zimmerman is the guy you're talking about. And I think that, the class is still out because you've got an ongoing investigation. I mean, it's easy to get all caught up in the emotion of the moment. But, really until we hear, the tapes, until the tapes are definitely decoded as to whose voice was calling for help, that it sort of varied between, I believe, Treyon's voice and Zimmerman's voice as to who was calling for help. And then there was also a question about the wounds on Zimmerman when he exited the police car. Were they consistent with somebody who was being hit on the head? And I believe it was ABC enhanced those photos, and you saw some blood on there. So that we're getting bits and pieces of sensationalist stuff along. Again, the media insertion of the hype is to, again, we have a white guy against, this innocent black youth, and that may well play out to be the case. But I think to form an opinion at this point, when I'm not part of a grand jury or I'm not part of the investigative team, I think would be hypocritical. I need to know more.
Yeah, there's three sides to every story: his side, her side, her side, and the truth. And that's what the job of the judicial and legal system is about: to investigate all aspects of a case.
Well, until we release somebody after 18 years on death row because it turns out he wasn't guilty.
Yeah.
I think too, in this case, I think the greater sin is the Florida law that allows you to shoot somebody if you have a perception of threat. I think that's the big problem, because Zimmerman is leaning on that section of Florida law as his defense. We don't have that in California. Just because you have a perception of danger is very different. It has to be a severe threat, which is, again, another reason getting a concealed weapons permit out here is like an act of God. So, Florida has to revisit what law they have and what's the real intent of it, and is it doing any good?
Or is this just another case for gun control?
We've spoken about this before. Yeah. Everybody who needs a gun has one. Everybody who shouldn't have a gun already has one. So we're not going to control the guns that are out there. We got millions of guns out there. So, the good people and the bad people and everybody in between, they've already got what they need.
Hey, Bill, you and I have to say so long for tonight. We've run out of time, but I want to thank you so much for joining us. Let our listeners know how they can contact you, buddy.
Oh, they can always call us at our main number, 760-771-4511. Or check us out on the web, www.worldfind.biz, B-I-Z as in zebra.
All right, Bill, take care of yourself. Regards to everybody at Apex for us, and we look forward to the next time you and I chat here in the X Zone. Be safe, my friend.
Be a pleasure. Stay safe.
Right. X Zone Nation, that's it for tonight. I'll be back, tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. So until tomorrow night, remember, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night now.